The last time my wife, Chloe, told me she loved me, she was looking at her own reflection. We were in our high-rise apartment. The glittering skyline of Seattle spread out behind her like a carpet of stolen stars. She had her back to me, her silhouette framed by the dark, rain-streaked glass. Her voice was a soft, distant whisper, a ghost of its usual vibrant self. "I love you, Liam." The words hung in the air, and a cold knot, sharp and immediate, tightened in my stomach. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. Hollow, rehearsed. Her eyes weren't on me. They were fixed on her own image in the window, as if she were saying the words to the woman she used to be, or the woman she was about to become. I was just furniture in the scene, a bead of silence, thick and wrong. Then she turned, and just like that, the warmth flooded back into her face. The practiced, brilliant smile that had captivated me from day one reappeared. "Let's just order in tonight. I'm exhausted." She walked over, kissed my cheek, her new, expensive perfume. Something she'd said was a gift from a client, filling my senses. The moment was over, but the dissonance echoed in the hollow of my chest. I'm Liam, and for 32 years, I believed in building things that last. As an architectural project manager, my world was one of blueprints, foundations, and load-bearing walls. I believed love was the same. You built it carefully with patience and integrity. You created something beautiful and strong that could withstand any storm. Chloe was the shooting star that had crashed into my orderly world and set it ablaze. I remember the first time I saw her, a gallery opening in Pioneer Square. She was a freelance graphic designer, surrounded by a halo of laughter, the center of gravity in the room. She was wearing a dress the color of red wine, and she was arguing passionately with a friend about the use of negative space in a particular painting. I was captivated. The man who dealt in concrete and steel, was drawn to this creature of pure, untamed energy. I spent weeks mustering the courage to ask her out. When I finally did, over coffee that turned into a 4-hour conversation, I felt like I'd been given the keys to a secret universe. Our life together was a cinematic montage. Spontaneous road trips to the coast, picnics in Cary Park at sunset, her head on my shoulder as we watched the city lights blink on. She made our apartment a home, filling it with vibrant, abstract art and the constant, comforting smell of coffee. She was my best friend, my confidant, my wife. But looking back, the hairline fractures were there. I just chose to see them as quirks, the beautiful imperfections that made our mosaic unique. Her phone, which was once always buzzing with messages for me to see, was now perpetually face down on the counter. The new perfume, a gift from a client, appeared around the same time Mark started showing up more frequently in our social circle. Mark, a friend of a friend, a 35-year-old venture capitalist with a smile that was all teeth and a watch that cost more than my car. He was everything I wasn't. Slick, fast-talking, obsessed with the appearance of success. He'd always find a way to touch Chloe's arm when he laughed at her jokes. A little too familiar, a little too possessive. She'd just laugh it off. "That's just Mark," she'd say, rolling her eyes. "He's harmless." I wanted to believe her. I was the stable one, the reliable one, the architect. I supported her through the lean months of her freelance work without a second thought. I loved her. Trust was the foundation of everything we had built. So, I dismissed the cold feeling in my gut as my own insecurity, the price of loving someone as brilliantly luminous as Chloe. I was building a life with her, and you don't question the integrity of your own foundation, do you? The day after the hollow "I love you," my world officially cracked open. It was a Tuesday. I was working from home, on a tight deadline for a new commercial project. My laptop, my faithful companion, chose that moment to give up the ghost. The screen flickered and died with a final, pathetic sigh. Panic set in. I had a critical file I needed to send to the contractor in the next hour. "Chloe," I called out, my voice tight with stress. "I need to use your iPad. My laptop just died." "It's on the coffee table," she called back from the bedroom. "Password is the same." I grabbed the sleek device, my fingers flying over the screen. I opened her cloud storage, searching for the folder where I'd backed up my files. That's when I saw it. A notification. It slid down from the top of the screen, bold and unassuming. Mark VC. The transfer is complete. You're all set. My little escape artist. The air left my lungs. The world didn't just tilt. It shattered. My little escape artist. The words burned into my retinas. My hands started to shake. A fine, uncontrollable tremor. With a numb finger, I tapped the notification. The message thread opened. It wasn't a thread of passionate, illicit love letters. It was worse. It was a clinical, cold-blooded dissection of our life. A blueprint for my demolition. My eyes, wide with horror, scanned the texts. Chloe, he's working from home tomorrow. The bonus should hit the joint account by 3 p.m. Mark, perfect. I've got the paperwork for the new place in NYC. You're going to love it. No more rainy Seattle. Chloe, I can't wait. This charade is killing me. He's so oblivious. It's almost sad. Mark, just a few more days. Remember the signal. Chloe, I know. If I say, I love you and suggest ordering in, it means the money has cleared. That's the signal. Then I'm gone. The words from last night. I love you, Liam. Let's order in. They weren't a declaration. They were a code. A confirmation. The final, successful step in a plan they had been orchestrating for months. They had discussed my salary, my bonus, the money I had earned and diligently deposited into our joint account for our future. They had used my trust, my love, as a weapon to fund their escape. I felt a physical pain, a tearing sensation deep in my chest. I stumbled to the bathroom and vomited. The face I saw in the mirror was a stranger's. Pale, gaunt, eyes wide with a terror that was soul-deep. She hadn't just broken my heart. She had invalidated it. My entire reality, the last 5 years of my life, had been a carefully constructed set. And I was the only one who didn't know I was acting in a play. The emotional collapse wasn't loud. It was a silent, internal avalanche. The man who believed in building things that last sat on the cold bathroom floor and watched his entire world turn to dust. And in the settling silence, a new feeling began to emerge from the wreckage. It was cold. It was hard. It was focused. She thought I was oblivious. She thought I was predictable. She was about to find out just how wrong she was. The cold was a revelation. It seeped into my bones, numbing the raw, screaming pain and replacing it with something else. A terrifying, crystalline clarity. I sat on the floor for a long time, the iPad resting on my knees like a sacred, profane text. I read the messages again and again, each word a fresh scalpel cut, until the horror was cauterized by a grim resolve. She thought I was safe, predictable, an architect who only knew how to build. But she forgot what architects also understand intimately: load-bearing walls, stress points, the precise amount of pressure needed to make a structure collapse upon itself. I became a ghost in my own home. I heard Chloe moving around in the bedroom, humming. The sound, once a melody that could light up my day, now felt like a taunt. I had to become an actor, a better one than she ever was. I had to play the part of oblivious Liam for one more day. The bonus was due to hit the account tomorrow. That was my deadline. First, I documented everything. I took screenshots of the entire text thread, making sure to capture the timestamps, the discussions of my money, the New York apartment links, the cold, clinical dissection of our marriage. I emailed them to a new, secure account she knew nothing about. This wasn't for a divorce lawyer. This was for me. It was my new blueprint. Then I got to work on the foundation of their plan, the money, the joint account, our shared dream, now their escape fund. I couldn't just withdraw it. That would alert her. I had to be smarter. I had to be a surgeon. I called my bank's fraud department. My voice was steady, unnervingly calm. I explained that I had reason to believe my wife's device had been compromised by a sophisticated phishing scam, and that there were pending, large fraudulent transfers scheduled to hit the account. I cited the specific bonus amount, the date it was due. I presented myself as a concerned, proactive account holder. I answered their security questions with an ease that came from a life of utter transparency. a transparency that was now my greatest weapon. The representative, hearing the conviction in my voice and the specific details, placed a temporary freeze on the account, pending further investigation. No large deposits or withdrawals could be processed. The first brick in their escape route had been securely mortared shut. I watched her, seeing her for the first time, the calculation in her eyes, the performative nature of her every gesture. She was a stunning piece of graphic design, all surface and no substance. The woman I loved had never really existed. At 2:58 p.m., she walked over to the window, just like the night before. She stared out, her back to me. I could see her reflection, her face a mask of anticipation. "Liam?" she said, her voice soft. "Yes, Chloe." She turned. She gave me the smile. The one I now saw was as practiced as a runway model's. "I love you," she said. The signal. Then the follow-through. "Let's order in tonight. We should celebrate." Celebrate. The word was a bullet. I didn't move from the sofa. I held her gaze, my face a placid mask. The cold inside me was absolute. "I know what that means, Chloe." Her smile faltered for a microsecond. What means, honey?" "The signal," I said, my voice flat, devoid of all emotion. "I love you, let's order in. It means the money has cleared. It means you're leaving." The color drained from her face. It was instantaneous. The vibrant, beautiful mask crumbled, revealing the pale, shocked woman underneath. What are you talking about?" I reached slowly to the coffee table and picked up a single sheet of paper. I didn't throw it. I slid it, calmly, across the polished surface. Came to a stop right in front of her. It was a printout of the text message. The one where she called me oblivious. The one that detailed their entire plan. She stared at it. Her hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes, wide with horror, darted from the paper to me and back again. The silence in the room was heavier than any I had ever known. "The transfer didn't fail, Chloe," I said, still seated, my posture relaxed. "It never had a chance to happen. The account is frozen. My salary is being routed elsewhere. Your escape route is closed." She started to tremble. "Liam, I can explain." "Explain what?" I asked, genuinely curious. "How you and Mark were going to use my money to start your new life in New York. How my love was just a routine that was getting exhausting." The shock on her face curdled into something else. Fear. Rage. The real Chloe, the one I'd never met, was finally in the room. "You had no right," she shrieked, her voice cracking. You violated my privacy." I actually laughed. A short, harsh sound. "You were planning a heist of my entire life, and you're worried about privacy?" I stood up then, and I saw her flinch. I took a step toward her. "You traded a builder for a conman, Chloe. I wonder which of us is the oblivious one now." The mask was gone, shattered on the floor between us along with any last pretense of the life we'd shared. The woman standing before me was a stranger, her beautiful features twisted by a venomous rage I never knew she possessed. "You smug bastard," she spat, her voice trembling with fury. "You think you're so smart? You're just a boring, predictable man. You and your blueprints and your safe little life. You were never enough." I was suffocating here. Each word was meant to be a knife, and they cut, but the cold inside me had formed an armor. I just watched her, letting her venom wash over me. This was the truth. This was the real Chloe, freed from the prison of our perfect life. "You think Mark is better?" I asked, my voice still eerily calm. "Mark, who's setting up shell companies with cutesy names based on your inside jokes. Mark, who is likely defrauding his own investors." Her eyes widened slightly, a flicker of uncertainty behind the rage. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" I took my phone out of my pocket. I took the liberty of compiling my findings. The SEC has a very helpful tip line. So do the financial backers listed on his firm's website. It's surprising how receptive people are to potential fraud, especially when the evidence is laid out so architecturally. I tapped the screen. Sent. The sound that came out of her was a gasp, mixed with a sob. The rage deflated, replaced by a sheer, animal panic. She was realizing that the new life she'd planned wasn't just delayed. It was collapsing in a heap of scandal and financial ruin. She was tied to a sinking ship, and the lifeboat she'd stolen from me was full of holes. What followed was a blur of lawyers and legal paperwork. It was surprisingly clean. She had no leg to stand on. The prenup she'd once laughed about now protected what was rightfully mine. She couldn't claim a dime of the money she'd tried to steal. She was left with her personal savings, which weren't much, and the clothes on her back. She moved out that weekend into a hotel Mark was paying for, at least until his world started to implode. I heard through the grapevine, the same grapevine that was now buzzing with the scandal, that the SEC had opened a formal investigation into Mark's fund. Investors were pulling out. The New York apartment vanished, a mirage that never was. The last I heard, Chloe and Mark were together, bound not by love, but by shared failure and desperation. Perfect, poetic hell. The victory, when it came, felt hollow. I sat in the apartment we had shared. It was silent. The vibrant art on the walls now looked garish. The space felt like a museum dedicated to a lie. I packed her things myself, boxing up the remnants of the woman I thought I knew. I didn't feel anger anymore, just a profound, echoing sadness. I hadn't just lost a wife. I'd lost the entire narrative of my life. The story I'd been telling myself for 5 years was fiction. Weeks turned into months. I threw myself into work. I was on site, overseeing the foundation for a new downtown high-rise. The air was thick with the smell of wet concrete and diesel fuel. The foreman, a grizzled man named Frank, clapped me on the shoulder. "You've been a machine, Liam. I've never seen anyone so focused on a foundation before." I looked out at the steel rebar and the deep pit, the beginnings of something meant to scrape the sky. I wiped the sweat from my brow and managed a small, real smile. It was faint, but it was true. "I believe in building things that last, Frank," I said, my voice barely above the rumble of machinery. "You just have to make sure you're building on the truth, not a beautiful lie." He nodded, not fully understanding the weight of my words, but appreciating the sentiment. Life slowly began to move forward. I started dating again. Her name was Sarah. She was a landscape architect. She was straightforward, kind, and her eyes held a quiet wisdom I found comforting. We took things slow. It was nice. It was normal. One evening we were at her place, cooking dinner together. The setting sun streamed through her kitchen window, painting everything in warm, golden light. We were laughing about something stupid, and she stopped, looking at me with a soft, genuine warmth that felt real. She reached out, took my hand, and her gaze was steady. "I love you, Liam," she said, and for a split second the world froze. That cold knot, the ghost of a betrayal that had defined me, tightened in my stomach. My breath hitched. I was back in that dark apartment, watching Chloe's reflection, hearing the hollow echo of those 3 words that had meant nothing. I saw the blueprint of ruin, felt the chill of the bathroom floor, heard the shattered silence of my own collapse. It was a flashback, a PTSD trigger from the emotional war I'd survived. I looked at Sarah. I saw the sincerity in her eyes. There was no calculation, no code, no signal, just a woman offering her heart. I took a deep breath, pushing the ghost back into the past where it belonged. I squeezed her hand, the warmth of her skin anchoring me to the present, to this new, truthful foundation. "I love you too," I said, and I meant it, but I will never forget. I will never be able to unknow the lesson Chloe taught me. Words can be weapons. Promises can be traps. And sometimes, "I love you" isn't a confession of the heart. It's the final, chilling line in a script you never knew you were in. If the story resonated with you, if you've ever had to rebuild from your own ruins, share your story in the comments below. And subscribe to Betrayal Tells for more stories of the truths hidden behind the lies.